welcome everybody. I'm your host, Russell B. Hill from WTF, and that is What the Fixed Ops to all of you out there. Very excited today, but I'm also joined by...
I'm Charity Dunning. I'm the co-host here at What the Fixed Ops. And today we have David Green, the UAW Director, Region 2B. Super excited to have you on the show today, David. Welcome.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is really, really exciting. So Charity and I were talking because obviously we're in so many meetings all the time, and it's the strike, how it's affected things, and parts and service and sales and production and all the things that go along with that. What better person to have on here than somebody from the UAW, right? And that would be you. So welcome to our show. Like Charity said, we are humbled, honored, and grateful to have you on today. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a GM worker and started in 1989 working as a summer helper. Took me 6 years to get hired. I worked as a temp for 6 years, got hired in 1995. Worked my way through the union ranks at UAW Local 1714 as a trustee, vice president, and then president. And then Local 1714 combined with Local 12 in 2018 to help save the Lordstown facility. And I ran for president of Local 1112 and won that just about a few months before they made an announcement to unallocate product at that plant.
So well,
want me to take over, Russell?
Yeah.
All right. Well, David, give us a synopsis of the current strike situation from somebody who has pretty much no idea what's going on.
Right. So we've taken out a number of facilities. It was 41 total. And then we took Ford out on Tuesday. A lot of parts suppliers or CCA plants we've taken out throughout Chrysler or Stellantis Group and General Motors. Ford got a reprieve on that. But, the goal here isn't to go on strike. We don't want to be on strike. Sure. Been on the picket line just yesterday, and I got to tell you that the people on the picket line want to go back to work. So we're working real hard right now trying to get a fair agreement for our members so we can get them back to work.
Is it getting close? I mean, obviously this is historical. It's been the buzz in our industry. You had COVID, now you have this. You got Ford, GM, and Stellantis, and it's like, what do you think is next? Because it looks like things have gotten progressively longer, and which means worse. Is there at some point in time there's light at the end of the tunnel? What does that look like? And didn't Ford just finish and negotiate in Canada, or no? Did I have that wrong?
Ford. Nope. I believe Ford got an agreement, and GM tentative agreement. I don't know if they've ratified that one yet up in for Unifor in Canada. Obviously, we're not Unifor in Canada, and our strike this time around is very different than anything I've experienced in my lifetime inside the UAW. Historically, just like Unifor did, we would select one of the big three, pattern bargain with them, and then roll it out to the other two big three. This time, something completely different, right? So a new strategy for the UAW. It's something that's been done in organized labor at other unions, but we're focusing on putting the pressure on the company, right? And by having all three of them at the same time on strike right now, we've twisted the tables on them. They have always pitted us against each other. Now we're making the companies bargain against each other. So we want to get the best contract from, whichever company comes in first. And I think it's close. I think it's real close.
Good.
I was kind of hoping for a TA today with Stellantis. I don't think we're there yet, but we're going to continue to work until we get something we can take to our members.
Just in case people aren't familiar with TA, would that be tentative agreement?
Correct. Yeah. A tentative agreement, which means the parties at the bargaining table reach an agreement. And we call it a TA or a tentative agreement until the membership ratifies it, which, all the members are going to have to vote to either approve or reject that.
Okay. So I've seen there was a couple of times that in all the different rooms and watching news and stuff, you were really close and then it backslid. Is there one particular cause, or because there's several talking points? Was it one talking point or several you were close on and one just not, hoping it would? How does that play out?
Our a few big issues we've been stuck on as of late. And there's a whole bunch of things that fall under job security and retirement security. But we're trying to work through those issues. I think those are the two sticking points. And I think we're real close, and hopefully we can get some type of agreement back to our members here shortly.
Everybody's ready to go to work, aren't they?
Yeah, and it's funny because I talked to some folks that are working and they want to go out on strike. They want to be part of the stand up and get out there and fight. And the people that are on strike, they want to get back to work. I've got Toledo, the Jeep Stellantis facility out, which is close to 8,000 members, 7,956 members out of 12 units. So just the Jeep plant itself has 5,800 members, but then there's 11 other units. They make gears and shafts and seats, and these folks are all out as well. They're not Stellantis employees. They're not collecting strike pay. Some of them have yet to receive unemployment. So we've been working with the state of Ohio to make sure those people can get unemployment, because after 4 weeks with no money, things start to get pretty tough. Right. Yep. And on top of that, these are folks that are generally making between $15 and $18 an hour. So they were already struggling. It's hard to work at that type of wage and raise a family in today's society.
Yeah, true. I was last week, I think it was last week before the days run so week to week, but we had a scheduled meeting with an automotive group that has multiple Ford stores with the dealer operator. And he texted me and apologized. He couldn't make the meeting. He had an emergency phone call from Ford, talking about parts and ordering parts. And, you better get him in now, and can't even promise what he's getting. So I think this is kind of starting to affect everybody now, right? And everybody's getting the big picture. Okay, let's settle this thing. Let's go on down the road. Let's make it fair for everybody, get everybody back to work. Because this affects, I can't even fathom the untold losses, not just with wages and et cetera, but it covers every aspect of our country, doesn't it?
Yeah, the automotive industry is a big pool on our entire economy. But let's face it, consumer spending is 70% of our economy, right? And so we really need to get our members to a livable wage, not only for themselves for sure, but what's more important is for their communities. So their tax base goes up. That'll help the schools, the firefighters, the teachers. And when people make more money, let's face it, they spend more money.
Yeah, they do.
So some of the
we like
right.
that.
So some of the pain, right? But there's pain right now. But it will be temporary. And then the flip side is this is going to get better, not only for our members, but I think for everybody once we get on the other side of this.
Good deal. Charity, you got a question?
Yeah. What are the terms of the agreement that you're looking for?
Specifics? Wow.
Well, as much as you would like to share.
As much as you can share. What we hear and people's interpretation of that don't necessarily align.
Yeah. Is it about work hours? Well, is it about pay? Or,
Obviously, those are things. And I think those are two things that the media has really kind of blown out of proportion here. They talk a lot about a 40% wage increase. Well, look, we took that number based off what the CEOs are making. They've got a 40% wage increase, so why not ask for it? It's bargaining. So, if you need a half a loaf of bread, you ask for the whole loaf.
Absolutely.
The other thing, right? The other piece is the 32-hour work week. They say, oh, those guys only want to work 32 hours. That's not true. We've got folks, I was again up in Toledo, who've been working 6 days a week for 10 hours a day for 12 years. I talked to a guy the other day. He's being forced into work, all this overtime. So when we're talking about a 32-hour work week, and they do that in France, right? And it's something that I think is productive in some scenarios. But the reality is we want to talk about a work-life balance. We just think our members deserve premium pay after 8 hours and just less forced overtime. Okay. Our members like to work and coach their kids basketball, soccer teams after work. They work in for animal charities and women's housing, and they do all these extracurricular activities that a lot of people do. They volunteer their time in their community because it gives them a sense of purpose. And when you're working these mandatory 10 and 12-hour days, 6 and 7 days a week, it's not good for your health, for your mental ability, and it's not good for the community.
Now there's a huge paradigm shift going on with millennials, Gen Z, Gen Y, Alpha coming up. Some of the things that I did and you do, working, whatever. I mean, that's not as important to some people, and it is about work-life balance. Okay, there was many years that I hardly got to even see my kids because I was working so much, and that's not fair. And people today growing up, they don't want that. They want some kind of balance. So you're trying to find this balance, right?
Yeah, for the next generation. And you're absolutely right. I've seen some studies where, what was important to me, right, in the 90s was a good wage and benefits so I can get a house with a picket fence and raise a family. And I've been lucky enough to do those things. And I have two daughters, 23 and 26, and their friend, they want purpose in work. Purpose and work-life balance is extremely important to the next generation. I really think this is true, not just here in the U.S., but let's face it, COVID, I believe, has changed our culture in a way where people they have a more of appreciation for life, more of an understanding about what's important. You sit home for 3 months and you start to really gives you an opportunity to think about what in life is important. And I really think that workers today, from all generations, but specifically the younger generations or newer generations, are in a different pattern.
Yeah, we know they certainly want different things. And I think in the end, some of the things I'm hearing you say that tend to get overlooked is everybody wants to know they count, they matter, they make a difference, and they're part of something, and they have time to. I mean, that's something we all want. And I, like you in the 90s, did the same thing. Just work, because I wanted the house with the white. Of course, mine wasn't a white picket fence, it was a brown picket fence. But I mean, semantics, right?
Yes, sir.
Oh, Charity.
Yeah. So this is gonna be a long-winded one. The right mix of factors coming together. You mentioned COVID. We have high loan prices, high interest rates, inventory issues, lower global production, recession economy, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I think it's
Great question.
The time is right. I mean, and it's not just our strike. We've seen labor movement happening across the entire country, across the globe. Yesterday, I had representatives, labor leaders from Italy, Switzerland, Geneva, Brazil, and the UK all walking the picket line, right? And they were talking to our workers because they've been out there for a month, and the morale starts to drop. And they were letting them know that they're watching too, that the world is watching what the UAW is doing right now, because they are facing the exact same issues that we are. And back in 2008, 2007, 8, and 9, we kept opening our agreements and made concession after concession to make these companies profitable. Well, those concessions were ours to begin with, and then we saw that spill over to every company, corporation, and organization throughout the U.S. Globally, it came out the same pie there, right? So those people in Brazil, in Italy, are working under a tier system where there's 5 different pay levels inside of the plant. And this is one of the things we really have to stop, are these tiers inside of our plants. When you've got people making the exact same part, or doing the same job and making half the money, it creates a lot of anxiety, animosity, and division, right there in the workforce. So a happy workforce is a good workforce. So let's get rid of those tiers. They're doing that in Europe as well, and all across on the other side of the pond. And so it's not just here in America. I think that this movement, and yes, I think COVID's part of it, I think that workers have just woken up. And after 15 years of stagnant wages, have had enough.
Yeah, especially when they see some of the people at the top raking it in too.
Right. I mean, how many billions is enough? How many millions is enough for anybody?
I'd just like a few to find out, just a little. No.
Well, what do you think, David, today? What could be done right now that would resolve it? The strike.
Resolve. Well, I think if the companies came to the table with a couple more dollars and and put that on the table, that would probably get us over the hump. But
that close, huh?
Yeah, I think we're pretty close. Yeah. Now, as a regional director, I've got 320 units. That's 320 contracts and chairmen inside Ohio and Indiana, and I focus on mostly the smaller units, right? The IPSs and the TOPs. The big three, they have their own vice president, so I'm not at that bargaining table every day. I call and get updates, but I'm not actually sitting there with the big three. So I can't tell you exactly where we're at, but I know we're getting close.
Good. You can kind of feel it, can't you?
Oh yeah, yeah, and it's about time. And look, we'll get something and take it back to the membership, and it's going to be up to them. In the past, I think our organization, the way we've done this, and look, 4 years ago, as a GM employee, I was out on strike for 40 days, $250 to $75 in strike pay. It was tough sitting out there that long, and our contract was junk. We got a 6% wage increase over the 4 years. So I know we're not going to get a 40% wage increase. My guess is somewhere between 20 and 30%, 25 maybe, 27. But that's over the life of the contract. That's not, people think, oh, well, you got a 40% wage increase or a 20%. That's not today. That's, that's over the 4 years or however long that contract is. So
some people think that though. And so I'm glad you said the way you said it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's really not, the media does a great job, I think, villainizing us sometimes and just trying to make it sound like we're these greedy auto workers. The reality is, over the last 15 years, and myself included, being a production worker on a floor, I got just a little over $3 in raises over 15 years, and it's just not sustainable, right? They took our cost of living away, and the small wage increases. I mean, in 2009, 2008, I was making 28, 29 bucks an hour, and now today it's like 31, 32 bucks an hour. So it's just
that barely covers inflation, if under.
It doesn't cover inflation.
Doesn't even cover inflation.
No, not even for like the last year.
Yeah.
No.
Right. Yeah.
And
No.
so, and it's not just us, I think, as an organization or our members that have gone through that. I think this is what workers are feeling all across the country, and really all across the world.
And we've touched on this just briefly, but do you think that strikes or shutdowns are signs that the traditional system isn't working for most people?
Can you repeat that?
Sure. Do you think strikes and shutdowns are signs that the traditional system isn't working for some people?
Yeah, I mean, that's why we're doing what we're doing, because the traditional way is what one man goes and bargains.
Yeah.
So, I think the labor movement is growing too. You've seen, hopefully, some studies come out. 74% of all Americans, Republican, Democrat, union, non-union, are supportive of organized labor. And I think what's even more astonishing is those 30 and under, that's as high as 88, 89%. So people are starting to recognize that there is an important piece of your work, which is joining a labor organization. It's part of having a voice in your workplace. It's also like having an insurance policy for your job, right? We have them for everything else. So when you're in a union, you kind of have that insurance policy for your job. And that's why, like I said, one of the things that we're stuck on right now is that job security piece in our national contract. It's extremely important, for our members to have a job, to have some protections, and especially with the transition from ICE into EV, which is internal combustion engine to electric vehicles.
Yeah, it's funny.
Interesting.
That's another huge talking point too. You don't even have time to even remotely
Yeah,
delve off
I was
into that.
hesitant to go down that
Yeah.
wormhole with him. But, well, how do you think the strike itself is affecting dealerships across the nation?
Well, I guess that depends on how many parts they had in their storeroom. I know it's going to be tough for them to get parts, and I guess I'm hopeful that customers that can't get parts could call Mary Barra and the CEOs and say, "Hey, settle this thing,
Yeah.
right? Get these guys back to work. We want to get our parts," and that's the type of pressure we're trying to put on the company.
We that's already happening, obviously, and I bet some of those phone calls are being made to their local reps, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, because we have clients, automotive dealer all over the country, and it's already starting to affect them. Some more than others because of what they had in inventory, but it's starting to affect them. Everybody's getting tired of it and just wants this thing to end, just like you do. And you resonated very clearly that you're ready and you're close. What do you think the ramp up time would be once people go back to work, just out of curiosity, before things get back to whatever the hell normal is?
Yeah. So, like, I'm hopeful once we get tentative agreements, we'll probably send our folks back to work, right? Because it's going to take weeks for them to read through the language, understand the language, and then vote on that. So I think we'd like to get them back to work, so they can work as they understand what this new agreement's going to be for them or what it's going to mean for them. And once people get back to work, I'm pretty sure you're going to see that supply system move pretty quick.
Good. Excellent.
Hello, everyone. I just wanted to take a moment to say a few words about our new sponsor, WYNN'S. People who love cars love WYNN'S. With over 80 years of experience in innovation, WYNN'S leads the industry with product and system innovations that drive vehicle performance and longevity. WYNN'S leads through our innovation, our technology, and the products we create. We bring a legacy of superior performance that professional service providers trust through our heritage of innovative formulas and unparalleled service. It starts with fuel and oil, and it ends with excellence. Our dedication to research and development has led to more than 18,000 granted and pending patents across our company. And that drive continues today at WYNN'S. New vehicle technology like EV requires leading-edge service and products. WYNN'S ensures our products meet EV requirements and still provide the same high level of protection that we've always offered. We meet tomorrow's needs by using our knowledge and technology today. WYNN'S brings innovative, technically advanced, professional-grade solutions to the world. Our legacy of innovation and performance is always copied, but never outrun. So thank you, WYNN'S, for sponsoring the What the FixedOPS podcast.
Well, you cleared up one thing for me right now, is that because there's a lot to go through. A lot of people have to look through it to look for loopholes and, things being too broad, et cetera. But if you have a tentative agreement, if I heard you correctly, these people will go back to work as over the next weeks or months, whatever, that the powers that be go through it to make sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed.
Yeah, and that's really going to depend on the vice president, who's at the bargaining table for each of the big three. So we've got, Vice President Boyer is negotiating with Stellantis. Vice President Browning is negotiating with Ford, and Vice President Booth is negotiating with General Motors. So it's a lot of that is their call, as that's kind of like their main objective and job responsibility is negotiating these contracts and working hand in hand with those automakers. So, well, I guess it's going to depend on when the agreement comes, which unit or which automaker comes to the table first. and then we'll kind of see how we can get those people back to work. But again, the goal is to get folks back to work. Our members want to go back to work.
Yeah, sure.
I know customers want their parts. We don't want to hurt our dealers. Everything we're trying to do for the betterment of all working people and for the betterment of our communities.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to me. It seems like the strikes are more common in a bad economic environment, maybe a high inflationary environment. And, right now, Joe Biden is a very pro-union president. Do you think that that's contributed also to the strike environment?
I think it has a little bit. You feel a little bit more protections in the National Labor Relations Board as well. President Biden has put, I call him Uncle Joe sometimes, but President Biden has put in some new people at the National Labor Relations Board. They're a lot more friendly. And so, as we look at the different laws that are passed, we'll probably lose things in court because the courts are not as friendly. But the board is more friendly, and obviously the president recognized the importance of people to have a voice in the workplace. And so when you know that you're not going to get hung out to dry, sure, it gives you a little bit more how can I say this?
Bargaining power.
Yeah, a little bit more bargaining power.
Yeah, there you go. I love that.
Let's see. So one of my other question was, do you think there's an issue with companies being more concerned about profits rather than their workers? Pretty obvious question, but I'd just like to hear your feedback.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they're more worried about profits, and this isn't something new. And I've been working in the auto industry my entire life, since I was 19 years old. And there was a time that it wasn't necessarily like this, that profits were always important. Market share is always important. Right. And it's, the companies, organizations, as well as the union, we would, always encourage our members to make sure we're building the best quality parts, because those are our neighbors, our family and friends who are buying those products. So we want to make sure we're building the best products we can.
Absolutely.
So it's difficult sometimes when you give like that, and people are working real hard, and then, you see the CEOs and everyone's getting bonuses, and they roll out the pizza for a pizza party. And you think, well, that's not really why I go the extra mile, is for a slice of pizza. Right. And it doesn't always have to be extrinsic motivation, right? It doesn't have to be a monetary thing all the time. But all organizations, they really need to recognize that their employees are the most valuable asset that they have.
Absolutely.
And when they're doing a great job, they need to be recognized. And sometimes it's extrinsic, more money or a bonus, whatever. But sometimes it's just intrinsic motivation, when they can come around and talk to you and really treat you with respect and ask you for your honest opinion. And when you say, hey, this isn't right, let's fix it, that they say, oh, hey, great catch. Yeah, we're going to fix that. I've seen a lot of times, the companies don't want to invest the money in the tools to fix the machines, right? So we have machinery that needs to be repaired all the time. And instead of trying to get the right part to fix it, you can only use so much duct tape and zip ties to get these things going. And a lot of times they rely on that type of strategy just to keep it going for one more part, when some of that stuff really needs serious investment.
Yeah, it could actually cost you more in the long run by not coming up with the money to do it right, instead of just band-aiding it. We certainly see a lot of that. Absolutely. There's a question here. Are strikes contagious? David, recent strikes happening for medical workers, UPS, actors, writers, etc. Do you think they're contagious, or is it just an isolated deal that these are all happening?
I think these are all happening for a variety of reasons. I don't know how contagious they are. There may be some of that, right? When you see these other people out fighting for it, and just like these friends from Europe were out in Toledo yesterday. They said, we're really watching this, and they're not watching it to catch it. They already caught it, right? They know there's a huge labor movement action happening and strikes across their countries as well. and it's just because the workers are tired. So when they see big gains, or they see people stand up and get a good contract for their members, then I think it gives them the inspiration to say, hey, we can do it too. And in that regard, I would say it is somewhat contagious.
Okay. Well said.
Oh. So do you learn anything by watching other industry strikes? And I don't know this for sure, but I hear UPS just negotiated a really good deal. Do you kind of look at that and say, that could be us. Here's how we attack it.
Oh, absolutely. I think, if you're in labor, then you watch all of labor, right? Because there's this sense of solidarity. I don't care if you're a steel worker or a teamster, communication worker, the AFA, the AFL, CHIO, like we're a labor family. We've shrunken considerably over the last 20 years in terms of members. And so we stick together and we kind of watch what each other is doing. And so, and I think, again, the folks from Great Britain was a great example. We said, we are really watching, and the Italians are really watching because they're working with Stellantis over there, and they want to cut their wages and close more plants. And they're saying, well, wait a minute, look what's happening in the US. Look at these other labor folks that are standing up and fighting. And it gives their members, I think, the bargaining power to go ahead and stand up and get ready for that fight. When you see someone else can do it, then you say, oh, well, maybe I can do it too.
Yeah. Yeah. It gives you that belief that maybe you can. You're not an island. Yeah. I like
Right.
that. Good.
I didn't realize that it was outside of the US as well. That's very interesting. What do you think is like the best outcome at this point, David, for all parties? What do you think that looks like?
I think that's a tentative agreement happening here within the next week or so, just so we can get back on track and get back to doing what we do best, is building great products. I think that's the ultimate outcome. Exactly what it's taken to get there, man, I don't know every detail, and if I did, I probably couldn't share them anyway. So there's that. But the reality is, my hope is that this all comes together here relatively sooner than later, and just get back to business.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody is right along with you on that. And certainly just from this conversation, you've cleared up some things that you don't typically hear in the news cycles, or people regurgitating what they think they heard. And by the time they heard it from 3 or 4 different people, it's like, you want this raise, for the rest of your life. And this starts immediately, and it's not over the next certain period of time. I mean, it is so convoluted. It's not even funny. And so thank you very much, because you certainly cleared a lot of that up, because you did for me, and I'm in these rooms all the time, so I'll be able to set some of them straight tomorrow when I get in one of them. And we're excited about editing this and actually getting it out, so people can learn more about it. Charity had a question here I thought was pretty interesting, so I'm going to ask you, because it is off topic. What's your stance on the growing interest in AI and automotive? Artificial intelligence.
Well, artificial intelligence is a huge animal that I don't know any of us are going to be able to take on alone. That's for sure. As far as, in the same vein, the automation that I've seen in the auto industry has been amazing, tremendous, and hurtful in some ways. And I say that because we've lost a tremendous amount of our workforce to automation. I've seen it happen. I used to be a spot welder. We don't do that anymore. Robots do. I was a material driver. We don't do that. There's, automated things that carry the parts around. I did a lot of jobs inside the plant that are just no longer there. They're automated now. And look, I think we all recognize automation is going to continue to get better. There's always going to be more robots in the facilities. In terms of artificial intelligence, I mean, I guess that's just going to propel those robots to do more, which is going to require us to do less. But what I've also seen is as these companies bring in more robots, part of our job security is protecting the jobs that repair those robots inside the plant.
Yep.
So you're going to have maybe less production workers, but more skilled workers. We're going to need more skilled workers that can repair, fix the robots when they break. Unless artificial intelligence gets to a point where it just fixes itself, I just don't know that we're there yet.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to happen in my lifetime, but I could. But yeah, it's certainly coming, and technology is moving really fast. And I've heard a lot of different things. Charity and I and Patrick, we talk about a lot in our business because it's a big focal point. And there's a lot of that people think of iRobot and Terminator and think, okay, the machines are going to take over the world and eliminate human beings. Is that possible? It could be. I don't really know. I don't think it's going to happen in the next few years, though. But it is evolving very quickly, and it is certainly a topic of conversation. And people are threatened by their jobs. And I think, yeah, some jobs might be eliminated, but new jobs will rise as a result of it. And I think the vast majority of it, our job descriptions will change, but we'll still have a job where it's incorporated. It has something to do with artificial intelligence or robots or maintaining those in some way, form, or fashion. Do you kind of think the same?
I do. I mean, it will create different new jobs, and some jobs are going to get eliminated. I guess my biggest scare with AI is that it's going to come after us, right? Once it can learn and from itself and starts to think in some strange way,
I know.
then I think we're all in trouble, right? So
hell yeah, we are.
Right, then we're all in trouble. So I mean, we got to get there. Even with a lot of the deep fakes and miscommunication and disinformation that happens across social media and everywhere else, it's real scary when you see people who aren't even real that are being, they're portrayed. And I've watched some of these things, and I can't believe,
isn't it?
that this is not a person, right? That's just, it's real scary. So I think in that regard, we should all be a little bit concerned, and hopefully our government can put some regulations on this before it spirals out of control.
Yeah, absolutely.
We are passionate about helping consumers find a great, trusted place to get their car fixed. We have 4 million uniques who come to our website each month for car repair information, and we help them find our REPAIRPAL certified locations. We also have amazing partners like USAA that offer our REPAIRPAL certified network to their customers and members. So how are we going to help dealers? Well, dealers sell 100% of the cars, but over time, after the warranty expires, the repairs go up and the revenue potential goes up, but people keep leaving the dealer over time after the warranty. By years 10 or 12, only about 20% of people are still servicing at the dealer. Why is that? There's one dominant reason, and that is price perception. And being REPAIRPAL certified helps you overcome the primary price perception problem. So come let us show you how REPAIRPAL can help you too.
I think there's some of that moving in that direction. I can tell you who all those deep fakes and all that stuff really benefits as a politician, because they say, that's not me, that was a deep fake, or whatever. We'll see. But certainly affects every aspect of the industry, and not just in our country, but it's worldwide. Yeah, I mean, you know what? We can weather it. I mean, look what happened with COVID. I mean, it shut down the world, and we weathered that, and here we are. Even with the robotics and automation and all the things that you're talking about, you're still here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I think we can weather a lot more than we give ourselves credit for.
Absolutely.
Right.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well,
hold on, Russell. Before you close us out, I just want to shout out.
What makes you think I was going to close them out?
Well,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
All right. Before we close out, I want to shout out WYNN'S. They're a really wonderful sponsor of our show, and I want you check them out. There's a link in the description below. David, is there anything else that you'd like to say that maybe we missed?
The floor is yours. Say you spend a minute or two and please share your thoughts with our audience, because we have a big one.
Yeah. So look, this transition from internal combustion to electric vehicle is something that's very important to us, because we know that these powertrains, the new powertrains, are the batteries, right? This is going to replace our engine. And so we're really fighting right now for a just transition. We want to make sure that our members, the electric vehicles have about a third of the less parts. It's just a lot less people. It's going to take to build those vehicles and make the parts for them. So we want to make sure that our members have a place to go as this transition happens. And that's why, if you hear us talking about it a lot, because it's really important to us. We have the only union lithium ion battery manufacturer in Lordstown, Ohio, and we're working real hard to get an agreement there. That is in my region, and it's a very important facility, not only just for the community and those people, but I think for the whole industry, as we see how that comes online and as it continues to produce. We're going to look at all the other batteries. There's a lot of other battery plants that are going to be produced here in the U.S. I'm not completely sold that everything's going electric. That's just me personally. I like my internal combustion engine, and
I do too, baby. Ice all the way.
You know, I like putting gas in the car and driving down the road. It takes me 5 minutes to pull over and fill up. I like that. You know, and until I think this all changes, it's going to be slower than I think that they're really anticipating. So, but I just want your listeners to know how important it is, you know, for our members during this transition, hugest transition we've seen in the automotive industry since probably the gas engine, is happening right now, and it's very important for us and for our members.
Yeah, it's really amazing. We talk about this stuff all the time in our company, and even you know, workshops and stuff we do on EV and AI and the future, and how it's going to affect the fixed operation side of thing of dealerships. You know, not necessarily the variable, but it's going to affect everything. But we've noticed that the adoption rate is not like it is in other countries that are much higher adoption rate with electric vehicles than we are, especially when I got to share this one thing. I find it fascinating. I think it's Norway. It's like 40% of all the vehicles are electric, right? But the electric supply is the challenge, right? So now it's almost $1 a kilowatt hour to charge an electric vehicle. Well, hell, that's almost $100 to fully charge a Tesla here in the United States. We got a power grid that was set up for the 1960s, not the 2023s. I mean, it's like, there's a lot of people that are paying attention to that stuff too. So I think it's a long time before ICE is not even an option. What the average vehicle on the road is, what, 14, 16 years now? Something like that. Yeah. Unless it's heavily subsidized. Yeah.
And if you look at the price of vehicles over the last 4 years, they've pretty much skyrocketed, right? Our wages haven't gone up. So when you hear people say, well, they're going to get all those wage increases and the cost of the vehicle is going to go up, that's a lie, right? The labor cost in a vehicle today is under 5% of that cost of the vehicle is labor. So, you know, these companies have continued to raise the prices on vehicles. People are paying prices on vehicles or driving their older cars longer because they can't afford one. That all is kind of tied into what we're doing.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
It
Great
is
conversation.
This is why we wanted to do it. We learned so much, and we're really happy and proud with all the listeners out there that are going to be hearing this. So this whole thing will obviously be available. But Patrick and Charity, what they do, they chop this up into shorter segments, and they distribute it everywhere. So when it comes out, it's like, you know, anywhere from 40 seconds to 2 or 3 minutes, and they get blanketed everywhere. So Dave, you're going to be all over the place before you know it.
Well, don't forget to close us out, Russell.
Huh? Oh, yeah. So thank you all very much for another successful WTF. I got to remind everybody, yeah, I know what you're thinking. No, it's What the Fixed Ops. And the very special guests that we had today, Dave Green, thank you so much. Appreciate you coming on. You shared tremendous bullet points and insights that a lot of our listeners didn't know. And we want to make sure that when everybody sees this, you know, like it, love it, reach out, share it, make comments, and let us know what you think of this episode, because it's quite different than the episodes we've done in the past. To have somebody like you, we're humbled and honored to have somebody from you on our show today. And thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, David.
Pleasure was all mine. Thank you.